And his homeland, or where he came up, was brought up, was a city called Benin,
Benin.
B-E-N, Benin, Benin. And there's lots of culture. We've been talking about, um, oh, look, so many things, haven't we, Edwin?
Yes,
So,
definitely. This has been fun.
so
We're talking about just preserving the heritage, and going back into generations and seeing how people live and what did they do, and being able to preserve that for this new generation and just for appreciation. Definitely, yes. Yeah.
it's very interesting to look at our heritage. I mean, Australia is a very young country, so it
Yes.
doesn't have the heritage of a lot of the places around the world. It's building, but it's constantly changing. And hopefully, there are people out there that are recording the things that are happening with the heritage of Australia, because Australia is now a very multicultural country. People look to come here because it's has the freedom and the space that a lot of countries don't have,
Wow.
and the beauty. I mean, we complain about not having enough land or whatever, and people in other countries living in high rise and not having any land or anything like that.
Hmm.
It's absolutely fascinating. But cultures are there to be preserved.
Yeah, no question about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we owe it to the generation behind us and the generation coming after us to
Yes.
be a conduit, that we can transfer that information. And yes, sometimes you might be dealing with folks who don't want those things to be done, for whatever the agenda is. But like I'll tell you, one of my really good friends, we were high school buddies. Part of what he's doing now is helping the king of Benin, the current king, Oba Eware II, to actually go to the European countries and repatriate some of the artifacts that were stolen from the Benin Empire back over 100 years ago.
Mm,
And and so it's not only just the return of it, but it's also the spotlight, and you can kind of see the Benin person, which I am, the pride of the influence of our art. Like in my travel, whether I'm in the British Museum or the German Museum or Amsterdam, and when you see the artifacts from the Benin Kingdom, you cannot help but be proud, of
yeah.
your heritage, And now some of those are being returned, so the people back there can also appreciate it, So that's
Yeah. I mean, it's been shared with different parts of the world, but it's time to bring it home so the people of the country that have never seen it can have an appreciation and see it and
right.
value it for what it is and what it was.
Right. And again, just from a business side of me, is saying it's made a lot of money for all these countries over the years. Now let people travel to Benin to come and see it, so it's good for tourism. Yes, the local people can appreciate it and the pride, but let it also bring those people who are interested in it instead of seeing it in Britain or Germany or US. Let them come and see it in Benin and bring in some tourist dollar, to that part of the world.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, share it round so that you
Yes.
can get that income.
Mhm.
Edwin, what else have you done, or what do you see yourself doing in the next 5 years? I mean, you've started HMP, which is the Happy Neighborhood Project, and that
Yes.
started out of, you know, um, wanting people to be happy, but also it started in the time of, I really don't want to say it come out of my mouth, the pandemic, and
Right.
to bring people together. And it did bring people together in a different way, didn't it? It
Yes, it did.
actually brought people from all around the world together,
Yes.
not
Yeah.
just in certain states or countries, but
Right.
globally.
Yeah.
What was it that made you do that in the first place?
So, first of all, in the introduction, you mentioned about the I Am Happy Project, which is the
Yes.
organization that spread to 64 cities in 19 countries. And I was invited to different countries to really help to create like a ministry of happiness. Okay, that was part of the thing then. And then when the pandemic came, I felt like, wait a second, we've worked with individuals and we've helped individuals cultivate the culture of volunteering or being a service to other people, which, by the way, is one major way to increase your own happiness, when you are of service to other people. So we celebrate International Day of Happiness every year. And so I made up my mind I wasn't going to allow the pandemic to stop us from celebrating happiness. And so that's why we move it online. And we have 65 people in that very first day, of March 20th of 2020. And then it evolved, and people start to realize there was a safe space where you didn't even have to talk about the word that you just mentioned. We
Yeah.
never, it was kind of unwritten agreement. Nobody ever brought it up. We
Mm.
just knew we came there for 55 minutes to support each other, to revert your own, to regenerate, to figure out where you're going from there in a cooperation. And I think for me, that was the most fascinating thing with Happy Neighborhood Project is people just went out and tell people, hey, you know what, there's this place you can come and you can just be happy. At first, people like, what are you talking about? Everybody are dying around you. You're talking about happy. You say, no, just come and try it out. And then the person come, then they go and get more people. At the height of the pandemic, I think we're close to like 20,000 a month registration. So we know we had a tremendous impact around the world, in terms of just helping people see focus on what is left, focus on how they can help other people and build a business on a foundation of happiness. So so my goal, you ask, is a couple of things. Number one, I'm very, very thankful that I have true servant leaders that is helping to continue to grow HMP. We've just reorganized it to what we call the HMP 2.0, in terms of streamlining it and everything. But without the leadership, without the volunteers, our mentors, our captain, our co-host, there's no way we could do this. At one point, we had over 220 co-hosts that was helping to drive the organization. So for that, I'm very, very thankful. Our event has been free, even though I opened my mouth that first day to say it will be free, but we've managed to keep it free with the help of sponsors, and
Yeah.
partners. Okay. But the future is twofold, I see. One, of course, I want to continue to grow Happy Neighborhood or make it available because to me, it's really a passion, is a labor of love. I mentioned it, if it was about generating money, it would not be, on my list like that. But I
Mm.
enjoy it. I can see the testimony that's shared by people who come here and what is done for their business and what they can do. In addition to Happy Neighborhood, I'm concluding my book. I think I shared this with you before.
Mm-hmm.
And my hope, okay, and my wish is to change the narrative about happiness. Okay, I don't want, right now, I feel like the way we look at happiness is from a position of powerlessness, where if you are happy, then that's fine, you're good. And if you are not happy, you're kind of on your own. It's this emotional roller coaster that we go
Mm.
through.
Mm.
And so I want to move it from happiness as an emotion to happiness as a skill. And so when we learn certain skill sets, they are not very complicated. It's just an awareness. The moment we start to learn those skills, and if we learn it ahead of time, then when life throws us a curveball, we are not surprised. We are not knocked off our feet. We can actually say, you know what? I think I read this thing in Edwin's book, and that I can do this. Let me see if that works, and then you try it and it works, and then you go about your life. And I have to say this. I truly believe that every single human being deserves to be happy. And I want to
Absolutely.
play a small role in making that happen. Yeah.
Mm. And I think everyone deserves to be happy, but sometimes people don't know how to be happy because they've never really been surrounded by happiness. They
Yes.
may have every now and then, but it's still an awareness that they need to build so that they can create the happiness. Because when you think about it, we are responsible for the consequences and the things that happen in our life. When we think about something, the feeling that we have and the actions that we take. And it's
Yeah.
really important that we have that joy and that
Yeah.
happiness in our lives, the abundance. And abundance doesn't just mean money. Abundance
No.
can be so a small thing like watching a flower open. It
Wow.
can be, walking around a garden or walking by the beach and listening to the waves, or it can be riding a bike and the wind blowing in your face. It can be very simple things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's actually smelling the flower, if you will, you know,
yeah,
you know, just
yeah.
just literally, you cannot believe how many people go by some very, very beautiful flower with magnificent aroma, and they pass it every day without everyone stopping and say, let me hold this thing closer to my nose so I can just let it in. They never. Yeah.
Oh, I do it all the time. If I see a flower that I like, I don't smell it. I take a photograph of it.
And more people should do that. More
Uh,
people
I
should definitely do that.
I do, and that's my joy. It brings me joy. I love to plant things and watch them grow. And when I go walking, I love to listen to the water rolling up onto the sand or the rocks. It can be angry, it can be calm. The birds, if it's dark, the moon shining, the parts of the moon, the stars shining, the different shapes of the clouds, the sun rising, and there's just so many things to be happy about. But we don't focus on that because life is so busy for us that we tend to forget to stop and smell what we refer to as smell the roses or smell the flowers, and
Absolutely. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
So,
And I think more people needs to know that they actually create that rush in their life.
yep,
And so that they also have the ability to reduce the rush in their life,
yes,
so they cannot be victim of what they created, and
yeah,
if they can uncreate it. Yeah.
yeah,
The only
and
exception to that rule are the children, so I really, like, we say that we can control a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, the children cannot.
no.
And the children are the mercy of the adults that they are that promise to take care of them. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And they learn from them and they grow
Yeah.
up and they will do what they've seen, they'll grow up and do themselves. But if they're
Yes.
taught to have fun, I mean, as a little kid, you have no fear. You can stand up in front of people and talk and dance and sing and put on shows and do things like that. As an adult, we have a fear of standing up in front of people and speaking,
Right.
you know?
That is the truth. Yeah,
Yeah.
they said the fear of speaking is one of the biggest fear that people have. Yeah.
Yeah, but we create the fears ourselves, and what we
Yeah.
need to be able to do is look at that and say, well, what's the consequence of doing and the consequence of not doing? What is the biggest thing that you can get from what you do, even though you
Right.
might be shaking in your boots? You know,
Absolutely.
it's have a go,
Absolutely.
feel the fear and do it anyway. Isn't that what they
A-
say?
Absolutely. Yes.
So, what's your book called? When is it going to be out?
Okay, so the date when it's going to be out is not very definite yet, because I
Right.
don't want to set a date and then put that pressure on me to
Yeah.
do. I want to really enjoy the process of doing
Mm.
it. And so but as far as the name of the book is Happiness as a Learnable Skill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's the name of the book. So Yeah. So,
And
you know,
inside the book, it will have things that would teach people or get people to recognize how they can create
yeah,
happiness in their lives.
yeah. So what happened was in 2008, 2009, you know, I actually went out and I interviewed over 1,000 individuals about happiness. So I have data. I have, you know, people telling me what make them happy, what make them unhappy, and all those kind of stuff. And that's really what inspired this whole thinking that, wait a second, you know, we've been told happiness is an emotion, it's an emotion, it's an emotion, but we can change that. And still, it's an emotion. We can still experience it, but change it to a skill. So what I've done in the book is I've identified some skills, you know, that people can learn. You know, some of them are very basics and some are original that I actually created and I've tested over the last decade, you know. And so these are things that, based on my testing, has worked. So it's not like just pull something out of the thin air. That's why it took me that long to write the book, you know. And when people were like saying about 10 years ago, write the book, I said, no, I need to put this into test. I need to know if it works or it doesn't work. And so they've actually been tested, but they are very, very simple skills that you can learn. And then in the book, I suggest how to practice the skill, you know, and then before you can go to put it to work. Yeah.
Okay, we're coming to the end of the show, Edwin. How
Wow.
can how can they get in contact with you if they want to contact you?
So the
Anyone?
very best way is go to happyneighborhoodproject.com. Okay, happyneighborhoodproject.com. On that website, you go to events, you see all our networking events, you see our free classes, and there's also a link to my TEDx talk on happiness. So that would be a good experience for people to understand why I'm passionate about happiness. And I think from there they can really, you know, email or contact. And then people can also go to LinkedIn. So
Yeah,
I have almost 20,000 people following me on LinkedIn. So that would be a
yeah.
good way. Just type in my name as it's on the screen, or I'm sure you'll make it available and
I
they can
will.
follow me on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they will. Thank you so much. Don't go anywhere. And it is time.